Chris, is Joe hopping on at all?
No, sorry, Joe's not available today.
Okay. Are you gonna provide any update on number 3 wind or Chris?
Yeah. Yep, I talked with Joe yesterday, so.
All right, so 8:01, we'll call the meeting to order. Goggin and Ron are not available today. We should be expecting Jerry anytime. So I guess we don't have anything. We'll start with the how many guests today. So we'll start with the mission statement. Lewis County Economic Development, through its board, the IDA, and its brand, Naturally Lewis, are championing the growth of a community where people want to live, work, build business, and play. We foster forward thinking and relationship building, connecting people, businesses, partnerships, and resources to effectively and efficiently grow our county. I guess we'll jump right into our list of items for approval. The minutes for the April meeting were sent out last week. Did everyone get a chance to review those? Any comments? Motion to approve. Tom, second. Kenzie, any for the record? All in favor? Motion carries. March financial reports were sent out. Cheyenne,
Yeah, we didn't have a finance committee meeting this month, so I'll just do a quick high level overview. The change you see on the balance sheet, the most significant change is our county contract dollars coming in on the checking and savings line. That's really the biggest notable on the balance sheet. Profit and loss. We did receive the Lakeside pilot in, we paid the grant pilot out as compared to budgeting, just receiving the Lakeside pilot in. So there's a little discrepancy on pilot payments passed through line. That's just where that hit first months. See the county money again on the contract revenue line. And then on the investment line, that will, well, we were expecting that to trend a little bit behind this year because of the different deferrals for COVID, especially related to SKU. That may actually end up catching up because the rich paid their loans off early. So it'd be offset in the end, but I want to call that out. That's expected to be. Questions? I did get a little bit of feedback from the finance committee. We kind of canceled that meeting at the last minute because the only thing got up were the financials. And Goggin did provide some feedback that we had a chance to review financials.
any other questions? Motion to approve the March financial. Second. Tom. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. All right. Order one only.
All right, order one only report. Our loan funds are doing wonderfully right now. Everyone is current as of right now. Well, as of the end of the quarter and as of right now, Snow Ridge was able to pay their loans up early. Their USDA and their county, they had loans in each bucket. So that's great, but our account balances are high enough. Full $25,000 loans. 4 or 5 different people right now, or businesses right now, they came to us, so we're definitely positioned well to help as that happens. And we've been in contact with a lot of different small businesses lately. It seems like we've got a handful that we're chatting with every day, different ones. So if the need arises, we have funds available. In terms of our leases and our equipment, these back situations, those are all current. Everybody's doing great with those. Only like really active piece we have going right now is for Chamber of Commerce. They lease space from us in the same building. Their current energy that continues to be delinquent, but I think we'll probably address that for our audit. The hope that maybe someday I'll get paid, but it's not likely. CDBG grants, since this report, all the money has gone out. And we've collected all of the admin money. So it's just a matter of wrapping up loose ends on that and getting all the documentation filed to close out that run of the CDBG grant. And we'll be looking to do another iteration of a similar one. Our heater equipment sale is going slow but steady. Obviously, it hasn't been our number one priority, but we've been moving that. Primarily, Jen has been moving that for us. And I expect that we'll have maybe $1,000, $1,500 and that we don't collect to reimburse for that loan. So, good progress there. Any questions on that?
On grants, you know, if people are making progress with your project.
Yeah, and we're gonna review them at the end of the meeting, I have photos and everything.
And so just on the energy thing, I mean, we filed,
Yeah, we've got a lead filed it. The name of it was, but if they try to finance anything under that subset of the corporation, then they'll have to address our debt first, but yeah.
no, I understand it's not likely, but just to clarify, we do have, legally, we've done what we can do, so at this point, it's. Did we actually need to approve this?
No, this is just a
Just an update.
for your information report.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, now we'll move into the whole list of the solar projects, and we got Chris on the line here.
Yeah, first one we're gonna start with is the Solitude Solar Turin East Road project, which Chris wasn't involved in. They've requested to have all of our project agreements assigned to a new entity. So last year, we did the same thing with the Solitude Solar Denver project. We assigned all those leases to Carthage Solar Fund. So Solitude Solar, they sold their 2.5 megawatt site to the Turin Solar Fund LLC, which is a subsidiary of Standard Solar. So they're requesting an assignment of all lease and project agreements to the entity. We just need to make a motion to approve that. We do have an agreement in place. Kevin is currently on vacation right now, so we know that he's received that agreement. And I think we should maybe make the motion to approve contingent on Kevin's approval and review of that agreement. Thank you.
So,
Jerry. Second. Any discussion?
Start with down there, I think this project is getting pretty close to completion. I'm not sure, I don't think it's online yet, but it's probably most complete with any of the rest of it.
Right.
Yeah, that one should be online. That one's
It's
they
very
filed
close
this year.
for sure.
So all in favor? Motion carries. All right, so now moving on to, so the next set of projects, just as a reminder, are the ones that we've been dealing with the last few months that were already in progress. But to the paperwork has not been submitted timely, so. um,
So over the past month, we held public hearings for all four of these projects. So the two Martinsburg projects and the two Loudville, I want to say projects, two Loudville applications, it's essentially the same project. We provided those public hearing meeting minutes to you all for review. We didn't have any public comment at our Martinsburg public hearings. And with our Loudville public hearings, we obviously held our first public hearing meeting, and it was not published in the Watertown Daily Times, so we then had to do it again. And Randy Shaw was in attendance at that public hearing. So I guess you guys have any questions on any of the public hearing minutes to start?
Just a reminder, we had made motions prior to send these projects to a public hearing. But now that that step is complete, then the next step is the final resolution. So
The resolutions speak to, the specifics of the project, so where they're located exactly and how many megawatts and dollar amounts per megawatt. And so on. So we provided that summary of the table in your packet too. You've got it in front of you actually, which outlines each one. And we previously had decided on the Martinsburg projects that we couldn't grant a sales tax exemption because the projects were already built more or less. The paperwork was following the progress of the project. So that's why in that column you have a 0 for the sales tax exemption being considered. As we walked through the process on the Loudville projects, right on that road, we see that they not really heeded our ask to slow those down or stop construction until we get the pilot and the sales tax exemption approved. So we can grant sales tax exemption for those, and it won't be retroactive. It'll be only what they have left to purchase, and that's really up to this board this time. Does anybody have questions specifically on the Martinsburg Flat Rock project? Chris, do you have anything you want to add on any of these?
Well, I just wanted to point out, so the first thing we would adopt before we adopt the approving resolution is a seeker resolution. And the seeker resolutions here just piggyback off the town planning board for the town of Martinsburg for those two projects, and the town board for the other Loudville projects. So we would adopt those first, and then we would go ahead with the approving resolutions.
So-
Is there any specific language that we need to include for the final resolutions, given that we're not approving the sales tax exemption?
Yeah, that's actually cooked in there. The approving resolutions on the back. There's an exhibit A, which describes the expected public benefits. So there we set forth the real property tax exemption amount for those projects, and it doesn't provide a sales tax exemption amount. If there was a sales tax exemption amount, it would be in there. So we're covered by the exhibit A that we have. It's a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Question, Flat Rock project indicates school district.
Yes,
At that point, this
one is just inside.
the line is south of the hamlet of Martinsburg.
I think there is a little piece of Martinsburg that is in South Louis with that.
This is on the north side of the hamlet.
Glendale, is that the project that you had made from town? Past Forest Shop. It's to the right, it's a maybe 4 mile.
No,
It's,
that's the Waters Road that. This is
this is on Route 20, Route 12.
Route 12, like near the Pioneer Cafe.
Yeah, so you go past, I think, Pioneer Cafe, go past the, and then it sits on the right.
Oh, that greenhouse, yeah,
Yes.
That,
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, sorry, yeah, that green.
Yes, it's really on the border of the Glendale Road. Route 12. And that one, I mean, I think you can tell from driving by, that's slightly more marginal land than some of the other lots that have been utilized, and that's reflected in the pilot dollars per megawatt.
So on the whole sales tax exemption. So the project is underway.
Yes.
They on whatever schedule they determine. So what's the sales tax exemption?
We're not.
No, for the Loudon project.
Oh.
Why would we go down that path? I'm not appreciating the value.
Yeah, I mean, it would assist them in any purchases they have left to make, that would be sales tax. But
Do they want to?
give us a lot of feedback, because like, it's been very similar.
I may be missing a piece, but like if they're silent, why would we go? Not trying to be difficult. Next on this.
Yeah, that's definitely a decision for this board. We discussed the Martinsburg projects 2 months ago at our finance committee meeting, and it's recommended that we obviously don't go forward with the sales tax exemption. At that point, the Lowell project was just like they were just doing site work, but they haven't slowed progress construction of the project. We haven't yet discussed as a board whether or not we want to go through the sales tax with the Lowell project. So that's a decision that should be made.
And they haven't requested.
They did request it in the application. So at the application stage, they have to check which incentives they're looking to benefit from. But we have discretion to say, no, you've gone too far here.
And typically, all of the agreements would be signed before any construction starts. So that's what the difficulty is with these specific projects, because they've gone in their own time in disregard of our process.
Thanks for clarification. Where the dollars for sales tax exemption comes. Is it local dollars? Is it sales tax they will be paid to their suppliers that are not local?
So the portion I've outlined in this table is the local portion, so that's the 4% that would be paid to local suppliers for gravel or.
So the panels and stuff that they buy from somewhere else. It's typically in these projects, it's construction materials that they may purchase. And it's 4% for the county and 4%.
Yeah,
Right.
so this 4% is based on the total hard project value, so it doesn't include soft costs, so it's 4% of all the hard project costs, which would include everything, so those are really probably inflated numbers, because they're not gonna buy those panels locally. So they would likely never receive that much benefit. But that's the number you kind of go with, just if you want to make that available. If for some reason they should buy more locally. And the way they do it is they have to provide a certificate, anybody they're
there any difficulties with receiving communication from the intent that we receive it? That's illegal to wait for that?
They seemed confused about the process. So this is the first developer that approached the IDA that 17. And worked closely with Eric. They really wanted to see us have some kind of solar policy, and that kind of is what jump started us on the solar thought process in Lewis County. But they stuck to their claim that they thought that based on that policy, their applications for previous projects in Denmark and Turin covered all projects going forward. That's the thought process that they continue to say that they were under the assumption of. We disagree, but so that's why they say these applications came in kind of behind the progress of the actual site builds. So we, in order to achieve our but for that these projects can be built but for this benefit, they had to show us in their financials that they had built in a pilot payment into their financials before all of this mess. So this is really following a process that kind of had a disjoint in the middle. They understand the process now, and subsequent projects will be right.
So did they provide?
Yes.
And I don't know if Chris can hear this, but Jerry's asking about the pro formas they provided for the but for clause. And so Chris has reviewed all of that material too.
Yeah, and I know this was a close call because they obviously went forward with the construction of the project without submitting the application. I think Joe and I looked at it, and based on our review and the consensus of the board, a prior meeting, the idea was again, it was a closer call, but it satisfied the test to us that the pro forma showed that they always intended for the IDA to be a part of this process to provide financial assistance through a real property tax exemption. So that's why we ultimately decided that, a pilot agreement with them was okay under the IDA statute. The bigger problem, which Cheyenne was discussing, was it's not as good of a case in terms of the sales tax exemption because they've already made a number of expenditures related to the project. To go back and retroactively provide a sales tax exemption on that is kind of a no-no in our world and the ABO and for that matter, the State Department of Tax and Finance. So that's why the decision on that was a no. That wouldn't be wise to move forward with a sales tax exemption. So in a perfect world, if they had come, provided an application as they had done with the prior projects, they would be giving them a sales tax exemption and the real property tax exemption would be a layup. But in this case, I think the safer course is just to provide the real property tax exemption and to take the sales tax exemption off the table. That was the ultimate conclusion.
And to clarify, that was for the Martinsburg projects initially because of their stage of construction. So
Correct.
So what's being put out here is that the Loudville projects are at a different stage. So we want to grant any sales tax retroactively. The discussion is, would we grant on anything that they would still be purchasing for the remainder of the project? And that's the open question. And I think it's a very valid one of what's our.
Yeah, no, Joe, it's a very valid question. But from my standpoint, because they provided the application, because it was an order, they would certainly qualify for sales tax exemption on the remaining purchases. I'm not quite sure how far along they are in their construction, but we see that quite a bit where certain expenditures were made before the actual sales tax exemption was provided by the IDA, but that's common.
So if the action is to support the exemption, are we creating a precedent that we can come back to muddy the waters of future projects?
I think we can be more clear on our process with developers moving forward. This was,
The follow-up question then would be, is it your recommendation that we would support a sales tax exemption?
I think if I understand correctly, Chris, we legally kind of need to on the level projects, correct?
Legally, I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit there, Shine. It's hard to hear you. Legally, with respect to the Lava projects, what?
We kind of need to move forward with the sales tax exemption.
You know, you don't necessarily, well, that's a harder question. You don't, the idea, it's within their discretion to decide whether or not they want to provide the sales tax exemption. The applicant could always come back and I don't want to sound scary here, but they could ultimately sue and say, why didn't you provide that sales tax exemption? The bar for that is really high. They'd have to prove that it was arbitrary and capricious of you not to provide that sales tax exemption. But I think here, to me, you wouldn't muddy the water by providing the sales tax exemption. I mean, for projects going forward, they provide the application, it's in order. Yeah, they might have made a few expenditures. That's common. That just happens in the world with construction. But the sales tax exemption would be valid moving forward. To me, I think in this case, it's warranted to provide the sales tax exemption. Ultimately, that's a decision. I'm just the lawyer. It's the decision for the board. But in this case, I think based on the facts we have providing a sales tax exemption to this applicant for those projects wouldn't be problematic from my standpoint.
For the level projects.
Correct. Yep.
So is it management's recommendation that we allow the sales tax exemption?
I think because with Chris's recommendation that this project was, it was done more in order than the timing in which they submitted the application to us. To avoid maybe any future legal battle with this company, so maybe we would recommend providing sales tax for any purchase.
Well, yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you, but is there a reason why? I understand for the Martinsburg projects because they just flat out didn't submit an application when they should have. But is there a reason for Lava we wouldn't provide the sales tax exemption? I mean, it's not. And again, I'm just catching up with you folks, but it's not like the project is half built or near completion.
It is.
Since they put the application in, they've been full steam ahead with construction this spring. So.
Yeah, so it's okay. I understand now. So in our experience, when that happens, our IDA clients typically provide the sales tax exemption if the application was timely submitted, but it would be limited to the remaining items to be purchased for the project. So that wouldn't be a concern for me. We see that all the time, where it's half built. It's their loss because they should have gotten this beforehand. The sales tax exemption should have been provided sooner, but in this case, that's not problematic from my standpoint. It would just be on the remaining items to be purchased to complete the project.
I think we were always under the assumption that we wouldn't provide the sales tax for the level projects. It was just the Martinsburg project that was a definite no.
Yeah.
Because of the process in which they submitted the application after starting construction.
And given that 1 month of the delay in the level approval was on us more or less because the journal didn't publish
Right.
the public hearing, the public hearing notice when we asked it to be, so that did delay us on the this project.
Right.
Where? Maybe the would there be value or it doesn't exist, language in the process that explains to the applicant that sales tax will, and do they know that, obviously, or is there value in adding language so that they understand the things that they need to consider?
Yeah, I mean, this is their profession, developing these, and it's honestly shocking to me that they wouldn't understand that about this. But
I think
I'm
it
just
is.
in respect of being transparent and avoiding future issues.
Yeah.
I think we can definitely be more clear up front with any developer that comes through. And with our entire solar process as a county, you know, we work very well with the planning department, so they let us know as soon as they hear a solar project in the county that goes through the planning process in the town, they let us know so that we can get ahead of the game. Reaching out to those developers. We do have an application that was submitted for another project in Martinsburg. But they seem to understand the process.
this is a different developer.
Different developer. But I think certainly we can be more transparent in our process. Even, you know, Chris and his colleagues are just kind of in shock that this certain developer would go through this process without having an application or any improvements in place.
Right.
So.
Right.
So moving forward, will be say that the whole entire application process needs to be done before construction starts to get the sales tax exemption, or are you going to say that you only get the sales tax exemption for what's about construction? Well, we would want to make sure that all the approvals are done before they start construction. Yeah. But like Chris said, there are instances where they might make a couple of purchases here and there. Maybe that's where, you know, with the number 3 wind project, for example, we approved sales tax exemption way before their pilot was approved because they wanted to make some of those purchases. That's a very unique situation, right? But that's to be our decision. Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt, but there's also always the possibility of if you know, if the pilot agreement, if the approvals are slow in coming because we're still negotiating with the company, we can ultimately provide an interim sales tax exemption, which I think we'll talk about with the number 3 project. But if they really want to get going on construction, we can approve the interim sales tax exemption so they can get going on construction and have exemption for that. So that's another tool in your toolbox. Yep.
I think, I'm sorry, yeah, so I think where I'm a little bit disappointed is with their lack of ongoing communication with you. And I think my experiences over the last 3.5 years, general way, living in the North Country, that there are groups and organizations and companies who just feel that they don't need to communicate. And in some ways, I don't want to reward that by moving forward with the sales tax exemption when simply engaging with the organization over this period of time would have been constructive and helpful. So that's where, you know, I'm concerned that our action to support the sales tax exemption in some way signals that process then doesn't really matter. But on the other hand, if there were delays related to the activities we were involved in, you know, I'm going to be cognizant of that. But the simple disregard of not engaging, to me, is an excuse. Because ultimately, it's Lewis County taxpayers that are subsidizing this through the tax rate. And in some ways, I think we're to help balance that.
I was pretty adamant not giving tax exemption for the markets. operations, I think that's basically fine. $1,000,000. So I feel like we sort of righted the situation
For Martin. What
with the
about
same
Martin?
company. Dollars.
I also think we need to, as a board, take seriously management's recommendation. So take that. Feel pretty strongly about that, I suppose. And, working with Chris is also to help us move through things that we're not expert in. Let's think about brand applications. And I think what I heard Chris say was basically he recommended moving forward with this. So probably at the end of the day, we just need to make sure our process is tight. So we have early on, snow. these organizations. Really set the expectation with them, communicate to the team here. It's hard to access. It's very accommodating.
I think this whole thing has brought up a lot of awkwardness and unfortunate timeline. And at the end of the day, it created a mess for them and for us. And, we've done a lot of work, even in the interim between the first projects this company did and these projects, we changed some of our process as well to hopefully prevent this sort of stuff. And instead of change, much better communication with the planning department and about making sure that if one of us hears about a project, both parties are aware of it. So, I mean, right, the optimistic view is that this should never happen again. Realizing that we live in a world where something similar could happen again. It is it's hard to say that there's a precedent set or not set because it's such a unique set of circumstances, and I think we just have to move forward with the best information and guidance that we have. And to Jeremy's point, all the pieces we have here, while maybe none of us are thrilled about it, it probably points towards that, we move forward with it on all the projects to, for some consistency.
What is the language of the motion?
They are actually resolutions.
Yeah, so they were shared, so Chris has them and they were shared in the email from Jenna last week. I don't think we have plans here today. But they're prepared resolutions that require.
Do you have a copy? Is it like multiple pages or is it?
It's 10 pages long.
The resolution?
But there is so on each resolution, there's an exhibit A that indicates what the public benefits are for each project.
Right. Each of the approving, resolutions, right, the approving resolution for each project.
So, and that's where Chris had mentioned earlier that exhibit A for the Martinsburg projects clearly states zero public benefit regarding the sales tax on those two projects. But on the Waldo projects, the exhibit A includes as it currently stands, includes the acknowledgement of public or of the benefit to the financial benefit to the company, but these estimates for sales.
If you have a language from the public benefit portion of the resolution. For the county project.
go to the last. So Chris, do you want to explain this chart a bit? This is definitely new to us and
Yeah.
like how this is laid out.
So under the IDA statute, as it's kind of evolved over the years, there's a requirement that the approving document, in this case, the approving resolution of the IDA, sets forth the financial assistance being provided by the IDA for that transaction. So in this case, in this resolution, this exhibit A, if you look at number 3, it talks about the sales tax exemption benefit and the real property tax exemption benefit. So that checks the box for that part of the statute. It also goes into, you know, likelihood of the project being accomplished in a timely manner, the number of local construction jobs, creation of jobs, existing jobs. So there's kind of a checklist that you go through. That way, there's no debate later on if there's an audit by the ABO that says, well, you provided, you know, X amount of sales tax benefit, but if you look at your closing documents and the ST60 that gets filed with the state, it's a higher amount. Why is that? So this concept kind of this exhibit A rather sets in stone the expectations of the parties in terms of financial assistance. So in this case, for this one, since there is a sales tax exemption being provided, we would have a sales tax recapture agreement specifically on this as part of our closing documents, in addition to the pilot. Whereas in the Martinsburg projects, you would not have a sales tax recapture agreement if we could move forward with that project because sales tax exemption is not being provided. So that's the long answer for why exhibit A is attached to our approving resolutions. But we find that, you know, it prevents confusion down the road. You know, you can pick up that approving resolution and say, okay, here's all the benefits being provided. This is what the board of the IDA saw, and this is what they approved. I hope that answers your question.
Partially, my question, I think, is less complicated. Is there a very simple statement about the public benefit?
Sorry, I didn't catch the end of that.
Is there a very simple statement about the public benefit in this attachment schedule?
Well, if you look at the lead into the table, it's saying the following benefits are the public benefits, and then each one of the line items there is part of the public benefits provided. So this whole table lays out the full universe of benefits that are being provided as part of the project. But for our purposes, number 3 is the key item.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So I think that's helpful to see what that looks like. But, you know, and so again, there's so as these are listed in order, we have 2, we actually have a number of resolutions related to each project. And again, you know, the difference between the Martinsburg projects and the Lallo projects related to the pilot versus the sales tax. You know, the fact that each of these had a public hearing, and with, which Brittany reviewed with very, frankly, very little attendance. You know, I don't know how, you know, it's always hard to tell. I mean, we advertise these, you know, we're legally bound to get the word out about them, and we try to publicize that they're happening, and that, you know, what constitutes the lack of comment? Is it that there wasn't any strong opinion about it? Is that people aren't aware? Or maybe, I mean, they have an opportunity to submit a written comment if they can't make the public hearing. So it's always a little hard to tell, but we do have that factor in as well. You know, at this point, that there really was no public comment either way.
Yeah, and I just want to say one thing on the Loudville projects, you know, just thinking about the sales tax exemption. If we move forward, those company counsel and the company would not expect, unless they're crazy, to go back and get sales tax exemption for the amounts they've already paid in terms of retroactive. That's nowhere near industry standard. So just wanted you to know that if we think about this, when we go to do those projects and we interact with company counsel on that, they will understand this concept of, hey, you know, you're getting a sales tax exemption moving forward, you know, based on the stuff you're going to purchase towards the project, but you're not getting an exemption on the stuff you've already purchased. They will understand that.
Going forward from the point of past resolution.
Yeah, correct. That's a good point. So technically we could, once the approving resolution is adopted, the sales tax exemption would be, you could authorize that instead of waiting for the actual deal documents to be closed. We have done that a lot.
So we can authorize that for any purchases going forward from today's date.
Yes.
Want to handle these individually?
They do need to, well, so there's actually, so again, there's seeker resolutions, which is basically acknowledging that the town planning boards have done their review of the environmental impact. So for each of these, we have to have the seeker resolution approved and the final resolution, which the final resolution requires a roll call vote for each of these. Does the seeker require a roll call, or?
Yes.
Yes.
So for 4 projects, we basically have 8 separate resolutions that all require a roll call.
Right. And you know, sometimes we take all the seeker resolutions for the different projects collectively in one motion, and then we would do a separate one motion for all the approving resolutions, or you can do separate ones for each. As long as the seeker resolutions are adopted first, that's the ball game there.
So we could maybe split them by the 2 townships, if, given that they you know, have unique characteristics of each of them.
I will go ahead and make a motion that we ask the seekers for both Martinsburg projects.
So Tom's motion was to approve the seekers for both Martinsburg projects. Do we have a second? Darlene, so roll call. Jerry? I'm sorry, any discussion? So this is for the environmental review resolutions for Martinsburg. Any discussion?
So we are, for the seeker, we are validating that the town did the environmental work.
Environmental review.
The towns completed their environmental review and met the state requirements referred to as seeker.
They determined that the projects don't have any significant effect on So they removed that. This is just a resolution stating that we
I will add the comment that I've
Yeah.
personally been through the secret project with Martinsburg on another project. So I'm very familiar with how they operate.
Other discussion? Okay, so now, again, we're at, for both Martinsburg projects, if this is a secret resolution, we have a motion and a second.
Yep.
Discussion. If there's no other discussion, we'll move on to the roll call. Jerry? Yes. Nancy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Darlene? Joe, yes. Goggin and Ron are excused. All right, so that is the seeker for both Martinsburg projects. So if we want to stick with those two projects, the next aspect would be the final resolution related to the tax benefits. In this case, it would be the pilot agreement with no sales tax exemptions to Martinsburg residents. So again, we can either do these as individuals or
Something in this next stage, and so we're really, the motion is essentially, or the action is to support the resolution.
So we'll start with the one that referred to as Flat Rock Road Maple Tap project. Would be the first one. We have second, any discussion? Roll call vote. Jerry?
Yes.
Mackenzie? Tom?
Yes.
Darlene?
Yes.
Joe? Yes. Goggin and Ron excused. Okay, so that was for the Flat Rock Road Maple Tap project. Now, the next project would, in the town of Martinsburg, would be the Glendale Road project. Is what it's referred to by location. It doesn't have a project name.
I will go ahead and make the motion that we pass the resolution.
Motion by Tom, second. Mackenzie. Any discussion?
I guess I would want to identify a potential conflict. The owner of that property is affiliated with the system. Should be playing on the same track pass. So disclosing conflict. So the question, I guess, for us to decide is if anyone's concerned with taking action.
Did you hear that, Chris? Or
No, I heard something about a conflict.
Jerry was disclosing that the owner of the land of this project is an employee of the healthcare system in the county, which he is the CEO of, and their children play sports together.
Okay.
And the question being what his role in voting on the resolution.
So it's an employee of the company. That's it? The landowner?
Correct. Jerry's the CEO of the hospital system, health system in the county, and the landowner is an employee.
Yeah, I don't think that raises a conflict under the IDA statute or the conflict rules. We're okay.
Thank you for that, Jerry. Any other discussion? So So roll call vote on the Martinsburg Glendale Road project. Jared,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Darlene,
Yes.
Joe is a yes, Gagan and Ron are excused. Okay, so now we've satisfied the two Martinsburg projects, which had, you know, similar characteristics. Now we're moving on to the two Wowville projects, which again have similar characteristics. Again, step one is they've both been through the seeker review by the town of Wowville Planning Board and been approved, and we have resolutions acknowledging and stating we agree with the towns of the seeker. Different township, same process. Questions? Do we want to do the seeker as a joint? So we have what's called Wowville Waters Road Unit A and Wowville Waters Road Unit B. So sounds like we follow the same process as Martinsburg. We have a motion to support the resolutions on seeker for both of these. Darlene made the motion, second by Mackenzie. Any discussion? All right, roll call. Jared,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Darlene,
Yes.
Joe, yes. Gagan and Ron excused. Okay, so now, now's the part that we've had the most discussion on, is we have these two projects identified as Waters Road Unit A and Unit B. In this case, the resolution is written as demonstrated with what's in Appendix A of each resolution, that there would be the tax benefits in terms of the pilot as well as the sales tax, which would be implemented upon the, well, that's another, I guess that's a further discussion, is we could approve, if we approve these final resolutions, we could make a motion to have the sales tax exemption take effect today, or it would otherwise take effect once the all the paperwork was signed. Is that correct, Chris?
That's right. That's right. Typically, it's the date of the closing, but sometimes, the company says, hey, we really got to get going on our purchases. And the ABO has ruled and discussed this, that the drop dead date, the earliest you can go back is the adoption of the approving resolutions. So technically, if they wanted to, we could go back to today's date if these are approved.
But that would require a separate motion after we approve the resolutions. Is that correct?
No. Nope.
Okay.
Once you adopt this approving resolution, you're set on that point.
So that would be a matter handled by Cheyenne and Brittany with the company going.
Correct.
So with where we're at, we had some really good discussion, and I think we can acknowledge that, there's not a clear, perfect solution to this scenario, but given the guidance from council and management regarding moving forward with this, then we would, if we go that route, we would be looking at to get a motion to support the resolution as it is currently worded, because it's currently worded with the sales tax exemptions. And they would start with Waters Road Unit A. motion by Tom. Do we have a second? Or second by Darlene. Any discussion? Hearing none, need a roll call vote. Waters Road, Unit A, final resolution. Jerry?
Yes.
Mackenzie?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Darlene?
Yes.
Joe? Yes. Goggin and Ron, excuse. All right, now we'll move on to the Waters Road Project Unit B. Same process. Essentially the same final resolution, just with them slightly different numbers because of the size of the capacity megawatts. We have a motion. Waters Road Unit B. Darlene, the second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, Waters Road Unit B, Jerry,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
Darlene, Joe, yes, excused, Goggin, and Ron. Okay, so that was our long list on solar. We do have one more item, or at least an update related to the number 3 wind pilot.
Yeah, we originally had, we had planned for final approval for the number 3 wind pilot. You can recall at our last meeting, we approved an interim sales tax agreement so that they can continue some of their purchases for the project. We are signing those contracts today. So we're gonna table any final pilot approval until next month. But Chris has an update from Joe on that project and those agreements.
Yeah, so thanks, Brittany. So as you mentioned, the interim sales tax documents are being finalized and signed today or tomorrow. So that's in good shape. Joe mentioned that the rest of the documents are coming along. There's some issues to be discussed with the company council on the pilot agreement. And apparently there's also a host community benefit agreement at play here, which are always fun. But his thought is any remaining issues would be resolved next week. And as you said, that we could approve this at the June IDA meeting. So in talking with Joe, the issues might be the wrong word. The remaining items on the pilot and the host community agreement didn't seem insurmountable. So should be resolved next week.
You,
Sure.
question on that?
Should
That's
we-
fine.
Should we make a notation in the minutes that this agenda item, subset number 3, does not require any approval today based on the recommendation of council?
Yep, yep.
And it's going to reflect.
Yep.
Something like that. Item.
Good point, Jerry. Okay, so
Question, being that we're postponing it for another month, is that going to be a problem for Marguerite and the company?
So we asked that question to Joe, and Chris, the question was, if we're postponing it, is it gonna be a problem for the company and the project? They were really pushing for the sales tax agreement to be signed. That's what they really need right now to finish off some of their financials.
Yeah, just to kind of solidify some financials, but also they're doing some clearing and whatnot, so they need that.
Right.
Marguerite's been really great about staying in touch and between our council and their council and Marguerite and I, we kind of make sure that everything's moving along at a pace that's working for everyone.
Right, and providing this interim sales tax exemption is the key item right now for them. So I think they're happy, and I don't. It sounds like in talking with Joe in the emails that closing the transaction after the June approval of the IDA, it should not be a problem for them.
For some reason, the 100+ megawatt project is a lot easier than some of these 2 and 5.
So I think that would be an additional point of information to reflect in the minutes. In fact, there is a sales tax agreement that really allows us to process. So that final details.
All right, thank you for those updates and that discussion. Good notes on the process and clarifying the way it was on the agenda. So, is there anything else for Chris? Or?
Yeah, Chris, is there anything else that you have for us?
No, now that the 4 projects that were approved today are set, we'll get started on drafting the papers for those so we can close on a prompt basis here, but nothing else from my standpoint.
Thank you.
I think for the next meeting, Joe or I will drive out if that's okay. Time to go back to in person, I think.
Yep. That would be great.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Chris. We
My
appreciate
pleasure.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
All right, so thank you for all that discussion. That was pretty dense today, but I think it was very good discussion. And
Just to clarify, Joe, you're saying the members are dead or?
the subject matter.
All right, thank you.
Good subject. So moving on to the executive director's report.
Yeah, so on to, I guess, more fun things. Just want to provide you with a couple of updates on some projects we've been working on. Last month, we approved funding the in-home daycare provider program that's happening here at this facility through JCC. I think today, hopefully Jefferson County IDA is also approving about $25,000 for their portion of the program so that Jefferson County students can be a part of the program. And Jerry, you weren't here at the last meeting, but this is a program, it's a boot camp that's going to help facilitate the in-home daycare programs around the county. That marketing is launched, and I think there's already over 10 to 15 people signed up for the orientation for it. And again, this is a free program for students that would be subsidized by both us and Jefferson County. So we're gonna really push the marketing and really work to get the information out to the school systems and superintendents. And
I've seen it coming from some
oh, good.
outlets. You guys have done, I don't know if it starts with you or where it started, but ABC is reaching out as well, but
Yeah.
it's been really getting a lot of traction.
That's good.
For different outlets, not just social media. So,
Yeah, we're really excited for it. And really years 2 and 3 are contingent on the success of year 1. So hopefully we have a successful first cohort. As Cheyenne mentioned earlier, we have been in conversations with a number of existing businesses and entrepreneurs who are looking to start businesses. I provided a list to you of just people we've been talking to in my executive director's report. And this really solidifies the need for a streamlined entrepreneurship program, which Jenna is working very hard at developing. So hopefully next month we'll have more information for you to present on what that program looks like. And it's really about connecting entrepreneurs and businesses to existing consultants and resources within the county to give them the resources they need. Oftentimes entrepreneurs, they come to us and we might email with them, send them to the Small Business Development Center for a business plan, and then they kind of fall off the face of the earth. So we want to put milestones in place that we can keep track of, they can keep track of, and we don't lose track of where they are in the process. So we're really excited about that. And lastly, Jenna is also our official spokesperson on the radio now. So we have ads out about our smart solar growth initiative. We've got a number of emails and calls from landowners who are very curious and have so many questions about leasing their land to solar. So that's been really great for us. People are hearing the radio, which shows that it's a great marketing tool for us for any of the programs.
You sound good.
Thank you, John.
And the website specifically addressing this for the.
Continue to build that out, I think, in regards to being very transparent about solar projects.
Does conference? Host our website? Do they give you any analytics on pages?
We
I
can
would just be curious.
Yeah, you can see it in the Redfin. I think in our annual report, it said over 30,000 views. But that page in particular, I looked at the first week we ran that video ad and it was over 100 views.
And do they give you like locators or,
You can, yeah,
indexes
you
to
can
know if
dive
it's
into
like
it.
other areas of the state, country that are seeking?
We can look
We
at
can
Google.
definitely dive into
It would just be interesting.
We actually got a call from somebody that lived in Hamilton County, I think it was, that heard Herkimer County, that heard the radio ad and called our office and said, I know I don't live in your county, but can I use these resources? And not really, but we can point you in the right direction. So it is getting heard over a wider region.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's there's stuff on there that's educational, and then there's stuff on there that's specific to our policies in Lewis County.
Yeah.
And it is fun to your point in your email the other day, Joe, to see Jefferson County kind of following us.
And how many other counties are really just starting to think about this, and we've been thinking about it since last June. I think looking at Taylor first, longer than that, but last June is when we really brought partners together.
So, and I would just say, respectfully say that I spent the last 2 days on a solar conference organized by Cornell with the purpose of trying to help extension educators around the state better understand the process. So, because they get calls from farmers and stuff, and as respectfully as possible, I'll say we're light years ahead of most of the state. in regards to the thought and collaboration between our group and planning and other county departments. We're not that we got everything figured out, but we're definitely way ahead of a lot of years. And I think the collaboration between the county departments is a huge part of that, huge plus for the efforts.
Any other questions on my report?
Kind of ahead of the meeting, but not everybody was here. Just the question about the broadband survey results and actions of county speaking, because that is such a big part of the focus that we outlined.
Yep.
You share.
Yeah, so at Tuesday's Board of Legislators meeting, they officially approved the broadband task force, which included a couple of legislators, Dave, some folks from Dave, Adams there, is representative from the school system. And Darlene was really helpful in, I guess, communicating some of the broadband initiatives that are already taking place at the schools and the funding that's already there, funding that they're already using to implement broadband for their districts. So it's really important that the county understands what are the initiatives that are already taking place in regards to broadband development, working together, collaborating. That's key. So hopefully we can still get some outside input into that task force, some, just the experts who are working within the school systems and already implementing programs. I think it'll be good task force to understand. Sorry.
Do they have any sort of timeline or?
I don't think so, because the legislators also approved 1 million, allocated 1 million towards broadband development. That was 2 months ago, 2 board meetings ago. So that was a really great step for the county to take to already allocate those funds. But they still don't have, a plan of attack of how they're gonna implement, what types of internet are they going to implement. So I think those are conversations too, so we can.
Thank you. Anything else for this portion? Do we have any correspondence? Committee reports, as Cheyenne mentioned, there wasn't a finance committee meeting, and there was a project committee meeting in lieu of a government meeting.
Yeah. Mackenzie wasn't able to attend the committee. We are receiving bids and some additional information from the top 3 proposals that we received from the line sale property. And we have received information from 1 proposal already, we're waiting on 2 others. So the deadline for that was May 11th, and we're meeting May 12th to further review and hopefully move forward.
Joe, at that time, I think we should really approach to create really a fine educational opportunity for that projects committee. I think it was helpful to have people guide without other business items. I think that's a good model. So,
All right, so then the last,
Excuse myself, we have to go to the next meeting.
thank you for
Have
that.
a good day.
take care.
All right, so the last section is just a few discussion items and updates.
Yep, just wanted to give you an update on a couple of our grant programs. So like Cheyenne said, we're wrapping up our CDBG micro enterprise grant program. Just to recap, we were awarded, the county was awarded 200,000. The Lewis County IDA is a subrecipient of those funds. So we were able to award 170,000 in grants, and 30,000 of that came to us from program administration. So just to recap some of the projects and where they're at. Bateman Draft House, we were able to grant over 6,000. You guys are like the first group to probably see these photos. They're not yet open. They have a Department of Health meeting on Monday, so hopefully they will be open within the next week or so. I think it was beautiful in there. They've done a great job. Again, this is going to be New York State craft beers and wines.
Not their own. It is their own.
No,
Right, it's all different ones.
yeah, different ones throughout the state. And light food items, sandwiches and soups and things like that. So we funded just miscellaneous bar and kitchen equipment. Black River Valley Natural, we were able to fund a couple of bulk storage tanks and a cream separator, which is going to allow them to expand their product line to produce 1%, 2% skim milks, which allows them to get into schools, universities, and prisons, jails. Bodhi Kombucha, they are a sister LLC or sister brand to Spew Brewing, and this is their new kombucha brand. We were able to help fund the purchase of a new canning line, and I truly believe that if it were not for this canning line, Spewed and all of their LLCs together would be in a completely different place. I'm not sure if they would have been able to open hot dogs if it were not for the canning line. It's really been able to help boost their sales throughout the pandemic, since so many restaurants were closed, they weren't buying cans of beer. But stores were looking to purchase cans, and people were looking to purchase cans. So I think it was a really great move on their part. Cummings Creamline Milk, so they currently process all of their milk at the Black River Valley Natural Facility in Mines Falls. It was always their intent to bring that processing facility back to the farm. It helps their price point. They're able to produce when they want to produce. They're able to produce smaller quantities than they produce at Black River Valley Natural. So we were able to help them purchase pasteurizing equipment and bottling equipment to help them bring that back to the farm. And we've gotten the question, won't that hurt Black River Valley Natural? With their business plan, they're not really looking to expand their co-packing. We're actually looking to maybe phase that out a little bit. So both parties are completely okay with moving that facility back to the farm. Osceola Ski and Sport Resort, we were able to fund the purchase of kitchen equipment and furniture for their new ski lodge. Beautiful lodge. They did awesome this winter. This was their first winter open. He's looking towards some summer events and summer activities, thinking about mountain biking and hiking and things like that. So really cool new business here. Lastly, Tug Hill Arts and Roasters. We were able to fund the purchase of various roastery equipment, including an afterburn machine, and help to fund the creation of a brand new cell phone app that will help customers with their ordering. Like I, for one, ordered a big 5-pound bag of coffee from them, but I have to email Scott when I want to order. So the cell phone app just allows all of their wholesale and retail customers to order online. Send an email or go on their website. And that equipment will also allow them to expand and move to a new location eventually, hopefully downtown level. Right now they're operating out of like a North Country storage farm, which is incredible. The amount that they actually produce out of that little storage shed. So it's really exciting. And we're currently in the process of applying for more funding through the same program, hoping to have the application submitted by this Friday. We're going to change up the program a little bit. Instead of going to, or putting it out there to the businesses, hey, we have a grant, how much do you need? We're going to make it a little bit more competitive. We're going to streamline the process and advertise the grant program in hopefully 1, maybe 2 rounds. We're gonna have everyone go through the same entrepreneurial training course that's required for the grant program. So we might have 30 interested entrepreneurs. They all go through this course. They all come out with a business plan, and based on their business plan, their project costs, what their project is, we can determine specific grant awards. And I'm thinking we would split it up into one $30,000 award, 5 $20,000, and 5 $10,000. That would give us 11 different grants rather than just 6 that we did with this last round. And we're looking to add some really creative ongoing support with each grant. So if you're funded through this program, you get things like a professional photo shoot to get some nice photos for your social media and your website, help them with branding and marketing and other technical support. And those are things that we would hopefully cover through our own program funds. So we're really excited to launch that program. We've been inspired by Livingston County. They are just a really creative economic development organization and are doing really cool things. So we've been able to talk to them about how they run their program and are looking to implement just some really unique features to the program. Now that we know how to administer the program.
Yeah, just as an aside, Brittany handled most of the administration of this first round and did incredible, but it was, I mean, we received $30,000 in administrative costs and really, we needed it. Because it was a heavy lift, it was a lot of keeping track of things, and you have to report things 5 different ways, because it's state money. So, yeah, Brittany kind of pitched this concept to me, and I'm 100% on board in making it. But it might look like it's still kind of complicated, but it's a much simpler process, and it gets rid of some of those things that were tripping us up along the way.
It really puts the lift on the applicant, right, rather than you seeking it there.
Right. Yeah, so the intent is, we will hopefully know by end of June, beginning of July, whether or not we've received the grant, the county's received the grant, then we'll take a couple of months, we should have signed contracts, and that takes a while. So the plan would be to implement this like January of 2022. It'll give us time to plan how we're gonna market it to the community as well. Given the number of entrepreneurs that we've talked to, I think this will be perfect timing to get some new businesses, get some of our vacant downtown spaces filled, some creative ideas flowing.
I think that the tide is going in the right direction between conversations we've had with the county on how they'll use their stimulus money coming from COVID and the availability of our loan funds right now, coupled with a new grant program. I think we have a lot of tools to help a lot of businesses.
So we can
I think this is neat. Are you getting any feedback on entrepreneurs and small businesses? Jobs and that's a percolation.
Yeah, there's always a workforce issue. I think now more than ever, we're seeing it in the hospitality industry, and restaurants and tourism-based businesses just can't find people to work. You know, you hear even in Jefferson County, there's restaurants that can't open because they don't have staff. So, yeah, I think there's a number of factors involved in that. Unemployment and stuff like that. So, but I do believe that this is an opportunity, you know, if someone has been laid off, I think it's an opportunity to get people thinking about maybe I could start my own business.
Yeah, it's an existing problem.
Healthcare system is a continuous problem. Maybe we can think about some sort of workforce development program similar to the daycare program, but related to healthcare.
Yeah, so. Work of discussion. But I need to have a lot
Yeah.
of versus focus on a single sector, because I think it's huge. Where it's really, so I experience it in my day. Just recent trips to either Jefferson County, Montauk, just to see it's been years since. And I can recall. So I was just, as I think the entrepreneurs obviously they need someone.
Everybody in college student like having trouble finding a job. I feel like now college students like restaurants, they should have no problem. That's because I mean that's ever. It was that. That's for those students. It's a whole group of young adults. And they're paying people to It's crazy.
All the fields. That's stuff.
We're nearing 9:30. I'll be quick with some of these other updates. Winter Design Challenge, just a reminder, this was a program that was implemented through the Lewis County Development Corporation. We received funding from Lewis County and the Frank Griffin Foundation to implement this program. It was $1,000 grants to businesses who wanted to implement creative outdoor seating or creative service solutions to help them get through the winter. So we were able to award $17,000 in grants, and we benefited 20 Lewis County businesses or not-for-profits. So just a couple of notable projects. Osceola Ski and Sport, they purchased fire pits and benches, which I was able to take advantage of when I was down there this winter, and it was a really cool atmosphere. Tug Hill Vineyard, same thing, fire pits and snowshoe purchases. A lot of people actually took advantage of snowshoeing up there this winter, which is really cool. Osceola Hotel, they had this pavilion that was just not being used in the winter, so they decided to enclose it and put some heaters in there for overflow seating. Frigo's Event Center, which is a sister company to Boondocks and the Edge in Mines Falls, they took their $3 million brand new event venue that they couldn't hold events in and transformed it into a buffet eating area and made this really cool seating area. Just made it look really beautiful.
I'm gonna continue to use it for weddings and such as well, so.
Judges' quarters, they implemented outdoor fire pit and outdoor seating and awning for their customers, and PB&J Cafe, a permanent drive-through window. So in the beginning of COVID last March, they had that makeshift drive-through window. Now it's actually a permanent thing. So those were just some of the notable projects, and there were other very similar projects, but I think all in all, businesses and not-for-profits are very appreciative of those funds. And just another thing that we've actually spent a lot of time on in the past couple of months, the county is receiving some stimulus funding, and Brian, our county manager, tasked our economic development partner group to come up with various programs and how we could use that stimulus funding rather than just having it go back into county government. Let's invest it in our communities. So we came up with these programs. Obviously, broadband was the first, hot topic, first priority on our list. Property cleanup fund. Legislators have already allocated funds towards this program as well. This is taking buildings that are falling down or unusable and investing in actually demolishing them. So having streetscape improvement programs, recreation, expanding the Careers Here internship program that happens every summer through the workplace, childcare initiatives, so that includes the in-home daycare program, as well as we're going to be working on some, bigger developments that include satellite locations, and surveying some of our schools and larger employers to see what the childcare need is, and can an entity like Hand in Hand take an underutilized church in Harrisville and staff it and create a daycare facility. So we're going to be doing some research into that, and then a housing rehab incentive to help our many homes throughout the county that just need some incentivized work to be done. So we spent a lot of time on developing these programs with the group, and they've been presented to the legislators, and we're at the point where we're just providing them with more detail to see if it's something that they want to invest in. And then lastly, each year, Advocate Drum, which is Fort Drum Regional Liaison Organization, they provide us with an economic impact statement. I just thought this is just good information for you guys to know And, Fort Drum has such a huge impact on our communities. It's the largest single site employer in New York State, which I feel like we often forget. Total Fort Drum related employment is about 25,000 in the Tri-County region. And that makes up 23% of the total workforce. And it's very interesting, the induced job impact by industry from Fort Drum. Health and social services, of course, is one. Education, retail trade, no surprise there. By occupation, education, office and administrative, healthcare practitioners, sales, food prep and serving. Again, no surprise there. And then this is just the direct impact of Fort Drum on Lewis County. In regard to property tax, sales tax, and other sorts of aid and revenue. I think we always talk about how can we engage more with Fort Drum. We're going to be working on a couple of initiatives. And we've been planning it for the past year, but we just haven't been able to get on base on a monthly basis, right? We're going to do some tabling and take part in some of their events on base, including career fairs. And what's the building that we're going to be tabling in? It's a high traffic area and
I think their education center.
yeah. So we will bring our resources and Jenna will bring a partner in for each time. So it might be the Chamber of Commerce to promote Riverfest or, events that are happening in the community that weekend. Might be Travis Report from the workplace to promote all of our open jobs that we have here with the doing. We can do a better job at exposing military to Fort Drum. Last time I was there, active duty military that I was in conversations with, they don't know where Lewis County is. They know where Louisville is because they drive through it to head south for training, but they just don't know where Lewis County is. So we can do a better job at getting in front of that and promoting everything in Alfred. So the full economic impact statement is in your packet. I'm going to dig into that a little bit deeper. Any questions on any of that? That's all that we have for today.
Thank you very much. If there's anything else, have a motion to adjourn. Okay, all in favor? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good discussion today.